Well, let me tell you, just in the last little while out of Moscow, Vladimir Putin has been talking, and he said that the West stood ready to provoke colour revolutions and, quote, a bloodbath in any country without actually specific naming a country. He was just speaking with the heads of intelligence services, but the quotes saying that the West stood ready to provoke revolutions and a bloodbath. So that's the latest from Russia's president. Let's talk now to Grigory Yavlinsky. He's an economist and former leader of the Russian opposition party, Yabloko. Thank you so much, Grigory, for being here on the programme with us. Your party has always been against this war. How alarmed are you by the way it is panned out?
Thank you. It's a very serious situation. And we are really alarmed, as you're saying, because we think it's only very beginning of the possible developments to the real big tragedy for Russia, and maybe even more than for Russia. So the opposition in Russia really cannot accept everything in the policy of Mr. Putin, which is going on now. And we think it's a very dangerous development, so which also can be as dangerous as nuclear conflict.
Yes, every episode seems to ratchet this up. In terms of support there in Russia for the war, how do you see it? How has it been changing? Has it changed?
I think that it's true that more than half of population support Putin's policy, but the problem is for them that they really don't understand what's going on, because propaganda and fear is making a very, very active job. And they're pushing people to misunderstanding of everything what's going on. So this is the very dangerous process, because the situation are changing, but very, very slowly. I can say, for example, that my party and we are the last opposition party, the only opposition party today in Russia. We were taking part in the local elections in Moscow, and we had a very strong anti-war campaign, and only 16% of the people in Moscow were voting for us. Although this is not a real elections, but this is a very dangerous result, because we see how many people are not prepared to confront the policy of Mr. Putin.
Let me ask you a question, because in terms of state television, exactly what you are describing, we've seen that for months. But I was watching something earlier in the week with one of the hosts actually raging about getting call-up papers himself. He said he was too old, he wasn't going to fight. In terms of mobilization, that announcement, how much is that likely to be a game changer in terms of how Russians view this?
The so-called partial mobilization announced by the leadership of the Russian Federation, in fact, dramatically increased social tensions. It deepens economic problems, provokes a new significant wave of emigration of young, educated, energetic citizens. Protests against mobilization conduct deeply split in Russia and in Russian society. It sharply increased the degree of confrontation in connection with the mobilization, and new police repressions are unfolding.
Yes. Can I just squeeze in? Let me squeeze in one final question, if I could, because
yes.
We've seen as
yes.
a result of that, so many Russians, I think 200,000, leave the country in the last, 8 or 9 days. Do you think that in the coming days and weeks, Vladimir Putin will ultimately, eventually have to close the borders to stop that exodus?
It is not excluded. It is not excluded. But the main danger of the coming days and weeks is the increasing of the tensions and confrontation in Ukraine, which would, after tomorrow's events in Moscow, would be very, very sharp. And that can bring the situation, as I told you, to nuclear confrontation. And that is the main danger of today.
I'm going to put onto the screen some of the pictures from Moscow in the last little while, the preparations for tomorrow's announcement about the official annexation of those 4 areas. The West, of course, already has dismissed this as an utter sham, what we've seen in those self-styled referendums. Again, how dangerous is this development given where it takes Vladimir Putin's narrative of how perhaps potentially they might have to defend those areas?
It's make the situation more dangerous because the war in Ukraine and confrontation in Ukraine would be more and more severe after the, as you said it, and you are absolutely right, the decision about annexations. So we are coming to a new, very dangerous stage of the developments of what happened in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
Really briefly, how secure is Vladimir Putin in his position, do you think?
Politically, I think at the moment he's secure enough.
Grigory, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us there live from Moscow and your thoughts on so many different strands of what we're seeing actually play out. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.